Bears,
Bears,
Bears, Bears,
Bears,
Bears, Bears, Bears,
Bears,
Bears,
Bears,
ahem.
Bears.
Bears Country Podcast. Welcome to Bears Country Podcast. The Roquan Smith turmoil has finally come to an end. The impasse has come to a head. Here we are on August 20th with the third preseason game coming up next week. And Roquan Smith has decided he's going to bet on himself. He says that the negotiations have ended a long time ago, and they are what they are. Time for him to bet on himself, see what happens after this season. To me, I think we all know where this is going to go next, right, Nomad?
Well, that's kind of what we in this recording for, to bounce around thoughts about where we think it might go.
Yeah. I mean, what's the obvious next course of action, right? The Bears had the upper hand. They didn't put him on the trade block. There was tampering going on. Everything had to come to an end after that. And now he has to play out the final year of his 4-year contract. And depending on what happens after this season, I think we all see the writing on the wall. Franchise tag coming up next. Do you disagree?
Well, no, I don't disagree with that part of it. He did say some specific things in the press conference that I locked into, and it basically came down to there was a number that he had, and there was a number that they had, and those numbers don't agree with each other. Mm-hmm. And so it seems to me that, and I'm one of those people that feels like, Roquan Smith is a certain kind of player. And I mean, when I say certain kind of player, I think he's the best linebacker in the league. Some people would say I might have said top 3 in a pod before, but I really think he's the best linebacker in the league. And when you've had a body of work that he has, you have that kind of body of work, you feel like you can go to the table pretty much within reason and say, hey, this is what I expect from myself, and have that need met. And I could see that frustration in him during the press conference. And to me, I think he's earned it. As long as he didn't come to the table with some outrageous number, it's probably only, I would guess, probably $1 million, $2 million, $3 million apart from each other. But, that's that. But I think he's earned it. You earn the right to go to the table and say, this is what I deserve. I want to be the top paid linebacker in the league. And also one of those nuggets out of that press conference was the guaranteed money that came out.
Right.
So that's an issue too.
Right. I mean, I think that the overall numbers couldn't have been more off than what you're saying, but I would imagine you're talking about per season, right? Like a couple of million per season, 5-6 million overall, 7 million maybe overall. It seems kind of silly to me to not have gotten something done over that. Because now we're just going to end up pissing him off at the end of the season.
I mean, I feel like he's gonna have hard feelings, and you can just look at Roquan Smith, and if you watch people the way I watch people, and you can tell people's passions. He's upset that he wasn't able to get it done right away, which he expected to happen. Mm-hmm. I'm Roquan Smith. I feel like I am the best linebacker in the league. This is what I'm asking. I think I've earned it. No, you're not going to get that. This is the number we have. And you can see the scoring on them.
Right.
Will that, change over time? I think there's a chance to. But let's look at it this way. Imagine if you were Ryan Poles. You got to think that he's probably way ahead as far as the cap goes with what he projects for the future with the numbers he wants to give out, like per position. He may see the DB group getting this amount of the cap money. He may see the offensive line getting that amount of money, the running backs, on and on and on. And maybe Roquan didn't align with what he had set and planned. And maybe that's the impasse. Like, hey, man, I want to give you this X amount of money, but under the circumstances, we got Justin coming up soon. We got Mooney. We got, who else is that? David Montgomery. Whatever happens there, but he's a guy that I'm sure from all the reports is very well thought out, very detail oriented, and thinks way ahead. And that's probably kind of how it's just sitting there right now. Unless he moves off of that, he's probably going to end up being a franchise tag, and I don't think he's mad at that.
We'll see what happens when the time comes, right? Because there's a couple of things to this that I just kind of want to say. Like, the first thing is, I respect him for not having an agent, because
I do too.
When you think about how much money that you're giving to your agents to go out, the agents, it's not that the agents don't do a lot of work, right? But in a way, it's kind of like the difference between selling your home through, a real estate company or going by owner, right? The people that want to sell their home by owner, they want to keep that 3% or 7%. If they can sell by owner to by owner, right, and not even involve any real estate agents, they're going to save that 6 to 7% overall on the sale of their home. That's a lot of money when you're talking about if you have $100,000 equity in your home that you're trying to get out of it, right? You're going to save $7,000. That's a lot of money. So you start from anywhere you go from there. If you 200,000, you're going to save 14,000. If you only have 50,000 in equity, you're going to save yourself, $3,500 or more. So he's just trying to capitalize on himself entirely, and giving that money to an agent just seems, to someone kind of like I think you're kind of like-minded like me in that regard, Nomad. We're kind of conservative in that manner. I think we've kind of established just talking to each other. We both like to can food and stuff, right? We like to bulk shop, stuff like that. So like, that's all he's doing right now. He's bulk shopping. He's saving for the future. He's trying to reinvest that back into himself, so he's not giving it to an agent. That's, of course they're doing a good job trying to. The agents are the ones that have all the contacts, and they know who to call, and et cetera. But I admire him for not having an agent and trying his best to get through this and believing in himself and thinking that the number that he gave out to the Bears, no matter how far off it might be, and we don't know what it is. It could be more than a couple of million. It could be $30 million off total on the life of the contract, or the guaranteed money. He might have wanted a lot more than that, or he might have wanted it to be front ended because, and I think that would be a good idea to do as well, because the contracts that are going to be coming up in the near future. Why would you want to back end it? All it does is undermine him by saying, hey, yeah, we want to pay you all this extra, we want to pay you the bulk of your salary per season at the end of your contract, when we're going to be paying other big contracts. Then to me, I would think that he would find that suspicious, as in that's a time for them to move on from him and not have to owe him that, because they already gave him all the guaranteed up front. So I certainly can't blame him for any of this. I hope that in the end, he gets through the entire season, plays just as well as we all thought he was going to play, doesn't have any, COVID issues, right? Plays every game. Now the Bears actually know what his value is in the new defensive scheme that they're in, because we've talked about this before, that it's possible the Bears don't know how to value him exactly in it. So hopefully everything becomes clear, as crystal clear at the end of this season, and they're able to go, yes, we're going to give you the extra $20 million or whatever it was in the contract that you wanted, because we do know your value in it now, and we appreciate that value, and it's worth it.
Well, I knew back to the part about, you're right, but back to the part about the agent.
Sorry,
thing,
that was long-winded. Sorry.
No, that's fine, man. To me, that's just a young man being practical with his money,
right,
and how he spends it.
right.
And to me, that's, when you said that's a smart move. I mean, some guys are intelligent enough to surround themselves with enough people that know how to read between some lines, maybe that you couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's got that kind of, structure around him that he sees, he can understand what's being said to him, the verbiage on a contract.
Mm-hmm.
And so what? He cut out the middleman. So some fucking agent ain't getting paid. Shut up about it.
Right.
I'm not really mad about that at all. However, it's definitely the guaranteed money and avoiding, because the numbers out there looks like they were offering him 90 to 95 million,
For 5 years.
and that's probably, yeah, some back end money. And he's just saying, keep that.
Mm-hmm.
I want my shit up front. I put in 4 years of work here, hard work, and I want to see it up front.
Mm-hmm.
Show me what I put in, and I'll give it back to you.
And there's no reason why they shouldn't do that. To all the reasons just mentioned. You got Mooney coming up. You got Montgomery coming up, possibly. See if they pay him. You've got Komet's going to be coming up soon. There's a lot of players. Like we talked about, even Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon are going to be coming up in 3 years. I mean, that time flies, man. So when you're thinking about the long-term building of your team and the financial structure of it, it would seem to me that when you're going to have the money sooner than later, you would want to front load it. It would make sense for both sides. Not that we know everything about what's going on with this, but from the little bit of stuff that we have heard, that just seems silly to me, if that's correct.
And I'm not one of the people who, like, there's a lot of people on Twitter is like, every time someone gets paid, the guys fall off the cliff and they don't perform the same. No. Roquan is cut from a different cloth.
Mm-hmm.
That guy knows nothing but 100 miles an hour. There will be no fall off.
Mm-hmm.
That guy knows that Roquan Smith is pretty much a household name. It's a brand name. It's a name synonymous with the Chicago Bears. It's a name synonymous with great NFL linebackers. Great NFL linebackers. Not just a linebacker. The guy knows he's great. And he knows he's in the trajectory headed towards the Hall of Fame. He's not going to let himself fall off. He's going to be an animal out there. And so knowing that, when you're judging that as if you're Ryan Poles, knowing that, hopefully he's not even considering that, Roquan may go out here and dog it. I think it's 100% worth it to give him what he's asking for. I think it is. He's going to end up being an icon in Chicago if he stays here.
He already has begun. Yeah.
Right. It's just,
we love our
linebackers. It just makes sense to me. If you're going to peg a guy on the team that, you got to pay somebody. Somebody's got to get the money, right?
Yep.
If you're going to peg a guy on one side of the ball and then peg a guy on the other, why wouldn't you identify Roquan as this is the guy I'm going to give the money to? Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't you? That makes just nothing but common sense. And then on offense, it's easily adjusted.
Have you heard about, I think this information was kind of leaked out. I think it was during the Le'Veon Bell situation in Pittsburgh, where Pittsburgh likes to do the exact opposite of what the Bears just tried to do with Roquan Smith. They like to front load the contracts so that they pay out the majority of the contract in the first few years, but then the player begrudgingly ends up making $2-3 million in the final 2 or 3 years of that 5 or 6 year deal that he signed, right? And then at the end of that contract, when they're still outperforming players that are making more money than them and in new contracts, it starts to weigh on the players, because now they're only making $2 to $3 million that year, even though they agreed to the contract to take their money front loaded in the beginning. And that's what I remember hearing about the Le'Veon Bell situation, and with him deciding he wanted to be traded rather than, deal with that contract structure again. Maybe it was not Le'Veon Bell. It might have been somebody else, but there was something that came out of the Steelers camp from that in the last, 7 years or so. So it seems to me like, back to the front loading of it, It's just this is the time to front load it. I can't understand why there would be any issues with doing that. I can't foresee them trying to break the bank, going after a big name the position player next year with this Pulls regime. I just don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to try to build this methodically through the draft and pay their players that they develop, and that's the way to go. So you're already if just use this as the first example of that. Pay the guy. We all know what he's worth. I mean, I know you start getting up higher than 20 million. It starts to make fans a little bit nervous because they don't know, how the team structures their finances, and not that we're all experts anyway, but we like to pretend we are. And it just seems to me that it would be smarter to front load it at this particular time, especially.
It's the trend, man. It's the trend. And if anybody watching this thinks that these guys don't share information from their agents to each other and look at each other's contracts and talk to each other about what was this and what was that as far as those negotiation and what's on the ink, what's on the paper, I meant, that right. You're a fool. They do. Right. They talk all the time. And it's the trend is to get, and this stuff just started really happening recently over the last, few years or so. The guaranteed upfront money, signing bonus money started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And everybody's trying to match everybody's signing bonus at their position. Like, hey, man, I think Roquan is better than Darius Leonard. I don't give a shit what nobody says. If he wants a couple more million than Darius Leonard, I think he should get it. But that's the trend. Guys were falling for these back-end heavy contracts for a long time that wasn't guaranteed, and they're getting screwed out of money for the most part. And now, things are changing. And as a good GM or a good businessman, you have to learn to adjust with the times.
Right.
If you value him as much as the city of Chicago values Roquan and respects him like I respect his game to the utmost, I watch in detail. I know what that guy's worth. A dollar amount, I'm not going to really put that out there. But, people talking about franchising, dude, that franchise tag, the last time I looked at in 2023 is going to be like 20.3, I think, something like that. So either way you go, if you're franchising, you're still going to give him somewhere in the neighborhood of the money he wanted.
And this is not like, comparatively speaking, like the quarterback market where you see Kirk Cousins coming out. He's a free agent coming out of Washington, and boom, now he's the highest paid fucking quarterback in the league. I mean, we all know that Kirk Cousins at the time should not have been the highest paid quarterback in the league. And then Jimmy Garoppolo follows him with the highest paid quarterback in the league. We all knew that was not correct, right? And then what had to happen after that? Aaron Rodgers had to put his baba on his mouth and suckle on it for a while, and then lay back in his little crib and wah because he's not the highest paid quarterback anymore. And look, it's Kirk Cousins and Jimmy Garoppolo make more money than me, wah, and they have to give him more money. This is not like that. This is Roquan Smith. If he wants to be the highest paid linebacker in the league to set the market right now, then so fucking be it. So fucking be it, Nomad. Because that's how the trend seems to work with every position. Christian Kirk setting the market for a fucking middle of the tier slot wide receiver. So if he wants his money, they better damn well give it to him after the season ends. Don't even just as the season is going on, just start adding dollars to the contract, okay? And when it's over, give the man his money and don't even think about pissing him off by making him a franchise tag player, because that's going to do what? It's going to sour the situation even more. He's going to have to either sit out or sign it, right? Then he'll finally make the money he should be making this year, but not even as much as he probably wanted. It's going to make things worse. So it just kind of sucks they couldn't get this done now, because to your point, Nomad, he's worth it. He's not a middle tier will linebacker that nobody really knows of. He's not a Christian Kirk will linebacker that somebody's trying to overpay for. Am I wrong here?
No,
Too much of
dude,
a rant?
no. I wish I can high five you because
You can't hear
that's
it.
exactly.
Air high five. There you go.
Bam, I got you, dude. That's dead on point, man. It's just it comes a time when you have to take Ryan Poles at his word when he says that we're gonna draft well and we're gonna pay our homegrown talent.
Yep.
He is homegrown talent, and he has put it on the field, blood, sweat, and tears. He doesn't change.
Mm-hmm.
When you see Roquan on that field, he's not. You don't see him having okay, I'm trying to protect myself or protect my body,
right,
or wait for another day, and he's not dogging it out there ever. I've never ever seen him minus 100 miles an hour.
Me either.
And that to me is to be commended. I respect that as a former football player. I respect the hell out of that. And
yes.
To me, like I said in the beginning of the video, a guy like that has put that kind of resume on the table ought to be able to go in there and say, hey, this is what I believe I deserve. We need to get really, really close to that, please. And I respect that.
Yes, I do too. And he deserves every last penny of it, man. And including the agent's portion. And I can't fault him for that at all.
Yeah, cut out the middleman. Ro, good job.
We would all do it if we could, right?
Yeah.
We all would do it if we could.
It's about saving money, man. Who wants to be out there spending? I don't know what that would cost him to have a agent full-time negotiating his contract. I have no idea what that number would be. But if you can figure out a way to weasel away from that and not have to pay that middleman, by all means, I take my hat off to you.
Hey, man, you using a buy one get one coupon for a fucking Whopper at a Burger King is no different than him trying to save money on an agent. You know what I mean? It's $5 to someone like you or I. Millions of dollars is the same thing to someone like him. It's relevant money. It's millions of dollars might not seem like a lot to you and I when you talk about that much money, but it is. Like if you're talking about your yearly salary, what's $20,000 to that? It's a lot, so right. It's the same thing to him. He's earned every damn penny of it. It's frustrating that they didn't get it done. I see his side of it. I really do. I just hope that the beginning of the podcast, like we said, we all know where it's going next. I just hope that doesn't happen. I hope that they really, when they see what this man does on the field this season for this team, that they already have the contract ready to go by the time the season's over.
I think in my mind, and I'm not being a homer, I'm just really trying to read the situation, read Ryan Poles, read Roquan Smith, and Ryan Poles comes across to me as a guy that's very sensible but prudent at the same time. Mm-hmm. And he's gonna have to come to a point once everything simmers down and it gets past the point where, at first it looked like Roquan was one-upping him. Once all that stuff settles down, they can come back to some form of reason. And he realizes and in the season is going to be the best way for Roquan to show that. Mm-hmm. At some point, I believe he's going to say, like, Jesus Christ, look at this dude, man. Mm-hmm. And the fans are going to be, things are going to change because Roquan is a dog, man. He's a dog. And at some point, the fans are going to be like, hey, man, what are you doing?
And barring injury,
it's going to give at some point.
And barring injury, what is the best season that you get out of any player? It's always that final contract season. If you just think about anyone in history, anyone playing for that next big contract, especially when they've been going through this shit that Roquan's been going through, everyone plays their ass off for that big contract. It's always the best year that they have I mean, for the greats, they end up having even better ones after that. A lot of them do fall off after they get that big one. But no matter what happens, it's always that contract year where you get the best out of every single player, man. For any one of them that matters anyway. So now you're going to see him just now he put down the paperwork. He just took off his glasses, he put them down, not that he wears glasses, and he went, it's time to go to work. Now you know
Pretty
he's
much.
not going to be thinking about anything from this point on other than busting his fucking ass for the best season that he could possibly get on himself. Why? Because he said it himself. He's investing in himself. So,
You know,
yeah.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Let me say this before I forget it. I'm going to paint a picture for you. And this is me looking ahead. And guys that look at this video, I think you're going to learn to trust me when I give you a little forward way of thinking. I think the Bears are going to jump off to a 4-0 start. I can detail that, in some kind of perspective one of these days when we look at the schedule. But big part of that is going to be Roquan. And I can imagine getting the city off to a 4-0 start and the fans are buzzing. And Roquan being a big part of that. You can just imagine if he makes a big play, makes another big play, scores a touchdown some kind of way, and the fans start going off chanting Roquan. The tide is going to fucking change, dude. And so I think it's brilliant.
Poles better have a number right now on he better have a contract ready when the season starts, game 1, and start adding numbers to it based on things you just talked about. And just don't let him leave town, man.
Telling you, I don't think he's going anywhere anyway, man. They declined the trade. I don't think they want him out of that door, and they're going to use the leverage they had to keep him there. But I think Roquan will have a lot more leverage during the season through his play.
And he could end up making more money out of it, right? So his contract now, whatever he thinks he wants, the Bears could just counteroffer after the end of a great season with more than that, what he thinks, and then boom, he's signed. We got him for the next 6 years or 5 years or whatever.
Man, I just want to see. I have faith in him putting a performance on the field that is strong enough to make everybody reconsider. All these people. I even had someone say to me in that chat you were talking about when I was in there. I said basically, I'm like, man, that dude he has earned that money, man. Pay that guy. And the other one was like, you're right, man. He does deserve his money, but not $20 million. I'm like, fool. The franchise tag is over $20 million. What are you talking about? Like, who are we to be saying what Roquan is worth as far as a dollar amount goes? I mean, who are we?
And the franchise
I feel
tag,
out of line saying that.
Yeah. Well, because the franchise tag is based on the top 5, the percentage of the top 5 best players of that position, right?
Yeah.
If I'm correct. Yeah. So if they're offering him less than that, of course that's going to cause a problem. He at least wants to be paid the top 5 of the percentage of the top 5 of the league, right? And it's got to be over the $20 million mark. That's what you were saying before. You got to pay somebody. But just front load it right now, man. Front load it. Make him happy.
All the fans want to be tight asses like it's their money. Like, shut up, man, dude. Let that guy get what he deserves. It's not your fucking money, man.
And let's just talk about how the Bears lost out on this, right? Because now they're going into, rather than just tearing up this contract right now, starting another one, front loading it, they're paying him a big chunk this year and a big chunk next year. Let's say it was a 5-year contract. Then they have 3 years left. By the time they're going into his 5th year, now they're paying Fields. Mooney's got his contract next year, right? The Bears fucked themselves by not doing it, by not getting it that's done this year, because now he has another year left, right? He's going to have to play out this contract, 4 years total, And then now you've wasted another year that you have to start paying him from day one after the end of this season big money again. So you've completely fucked yourself out of a season's worth of paying him big money. Now that clock resets at the end of the season. Now you're behind the 8 ball by one season. Now you're running into problems with future contracts for future players. Just talking about it's kind of starting to piss me off.
It's about putting out the small fires before they metastasize, man.
Exactly.
And you have to. I mean, it's still a relatively small fire because it can be done, like you said, before the beginning of the season or somewhere early in the season. It can be done, but you can't let this billow and just carry on, man. It's going to turn to a monster later on if you don't knock this stuff out, man. Take it on the chin. You had your disagreement with what you thought you should pay him, but you got to get this taken care of so you can focus on other things.
They better spend the rest of this season kissing his fucking ass every turn. Every time he walks in the locker room after a game with 14 tackles and a sack and a fumble recovery, Poles better be in there with a fucking Danish roll and some coffee for him and asking him whatever else he needs, because he better be kissing his ass as the season goes on to keep him happy. And then start adding the numbers to the contract that he's already established that he declined, that Roquan declined. Take that same contract, just start adding to it after this season.
Somebody's fostering good relations, or because it's not as bad as we all assumed it would be, or he wouldn't be where he's at right now.
Right. That's a good sign. I mean, he's been there with the team the whole time. He traveled to Seattle with them, comes back. I mean, he seemed a little perturbed in the press conference, but I just think he's trying to call them out for their own BS. I think he's right.
Okay, let's want to do final thoughts before we both get beat to death.
Yeah. What are your final thoughts?
My final thoughts is much the same. I believe that I think karma, Roquan has put out, he has sowed good seeds with the Chicago Bears and the organization and the fans and the fan base and with everybody. I think when you sow good seeds, you should be able to harvest them. And I think he will at some point. This fire will be gone at some point, and I think he'll be able to harvest what he sowed.
Mm-hmm. You good?
Yep.
Okay. I'm gonna end my final thoughts with this. Roquan, you are worth every penny. You get out there and bust your fucking ass the same way that you've done every year for the Bears. And then the card's going to be in your favor, my friend. You're going to get what you deserve. The team, he said he loves being a Chicago linebacker. Like, Roquan, we know you love being a Chicago linebacker. We know that you know the history of the Chicago linebacker position. We know that you are entrenched in that deep history and that you are honored to be a part of that. And thank you for feeling that way. As a Bears fan, from my heart, from Nomad's heart to yours, we truly appreciate that. Go out there and do what you got to do, man. And just keep it in the back of your heart that no matter what happens, every day is a new day. Things change. Keep yourself on the good terms that you're on with the team. And Bears, please do the same. This is someone that you have that is on your team, and it's a homegrown talent of yours. It's one of your home runs. Stick to your guns as a Chicago Bears linebacker-rich team. Just pay attention to this man. Give him what he's worth. Because at the end of this season, If we can just put all this shit away, like you said, Nomad, every day is a different day. You stack many of those on top of each other. Next thing you know, 8 months from now, an entirely different frame of mind. Start all over again from ground one. And Bears, get that contract ready and start adding to the numbers, because this is a man you do not want to let leave the building. With that, I want to say to everyone out there, thank you so much for watching tonight. If you do like this content, please be sure to like and subscribe, because it does help us go a long way with keeping this content out there for you guys, because we want to make sure that everyone who wants to see this stuff gets to see it. And the more likes and the more views and the more love we get from our Bears Nation out there, everyone that bleeds blue and orange, the more that we're going to succeed, the more everyone will get to see this, the more we can continue to do this. We love this. This is all for you. We are fans just the same, and we want to continue to just give you all of this wonderful content so everyone can enjoy it the same as us. Until Monday night, Nomad and I are on every Monday night on Bears Country Podcast, currently at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure to tune in to us this coming Monday, because there will be more on this and more of the breakdown from the game on Thursday night. Until then, bear down.
Bear down.